Hello, friends. The 24th of November 1971. In America, a Northwest Orient Airlines flight took off from Portland. This is a small, 30-minute flight to Seattle City nearby. Not many passengers were on this flight. It was carrying only 36 passengers and 6 crew members. But these passengers were unaware that a hijacker was present on this flight. A man named D.B. Cooper. The hijacker looked like a normal businessman. He was dressed like that, a business suit, white shirt, and black pants. He must have been in his mid-40s. He intentionally sat in the last row of the plane, seat number 18E. As soon as the plane took off, this guy introduced himself to an air hostess. He mentions his name, Dan Cooper. The hostess's name was Florence Schaffner, and with a big smile, he handed a note to the air hostess. Schaffner was a 23-year-old woman who thought that this man was trying to flirt with her. So, she took that note and kept it with her without reading it. Seeing this, Cooper told her that she should read the note. He said that he had a bomb. When Schaffner opened the note, it was clearly written in neat handwriting. "Miss, I have a B0 ME in my briefcase, and I want you to sit by me." Schaffner quietly sat next to Cooper, but she still couldn't believe that he actually had a bomb. So Cooper opened his suitcase to show it to her. Some red cylinders, wires, and a big cylindrical battery were in the suitcase. There was no doubt that it was a bomb. Cooper made his demands to the air hostess. He wanted $100, zero by 5 p.m. that evening, that too in cash. He wanted all that cash in a bag along with 2 parachutes in the back and the parachutes in the front. When they eventually landed, he wanted to have a fuel truck ready to refill the plane. He warned her against trying anything strange threatening to blow up the plane otherwise. The other passengers on the plane were unaware of this, and air hostess Schaffner didn't want the other passengers to know. She quietly went into the cockpit and showed Cooper's note to the pilots, another air hostess. Tina Mucklow was informed about this, and she sat beside Cooper. With the help of these 2 air hostesses, the contact between the plane's cockpit and Cooper could be maintained. The pilots informed the air traffic controller, and soon the news reached the president of the airline, Donald Nerob. He was the decision maker, and he made an interesting decision. He told the staff to ensure full compliance with Cooper's demands, to fulfill all demands made by this hijacker. After coordinating with the FBI, he talked to a Seattle bank to arrange the money. The bank had a huge bundle of money for such emergencies, but there was something special about this bundle of money. We will talk about it later in the video. But you must be wondering, why did the airline's president decide to cooperate with the hijackers? The reason behind this was reputation. The airline's president didn't want the news of the hijack to spread all over the world, leading to heavy losses for his company. So to keep this issue under wraps, he was willing to fulfill the demands of the hijackers. The only problem was that they needed some time to arrange the money. But this flight was only supposed to be half an hour long, so the pilots were told that instead of landing the plane, they were to keep circling around Seattle until they could arrange the money on the ground. This half-hour flight gradually became 3 hours long. Passengers were still unaware of what was happening. Flight pilots announced that they were facing minor technical difficulties, causing the delay. The other passengers believed this. Finally, this flight landed at Seattle's airport at 5:46 p.m., according to Cooper's instructions. The plane was parked far from the main terminal building. One airline representative approached the plane with a bag of money and the parachutes. When the parachutes and the bag of money was given to Cooper, he allowed the passengers and flight attendants to leave the plane except Tina Mucklow. After this, according to the plane was refueled and it takes off again. This time, only the pilots were on the plane along with Cooper and Tina. Cooper started giving instructions to the pilots again for the destination of the flight, the speed of the flight, down to the very angle. He directs them to fly the plane towards Mexico City at an altitude of 10,000 feet in the air, with the wings positioned at 15. As for the plane's speed, he wanted to fly as slow as possible. The pilots told Cooper that flying with these configurations would make it difficult for them to reach Mexico City because there wasn't enough fuel in the plane, but Cooper was not worried about it. Cooper told them to fly as he directed. Friends, what happened next is completely unbelievable. No less than a film story. Cooper told Tina to go to the cockpit and lock the door. Cooper was the only person outside the cockpit. He took out his parachutes and prepared to dive. A few minutes later, a warning light flashed in the cockpit. indicating that the rear staircase had been deployed. This was a unique feature in these planes back then. Boeing 727 planes had an aft staircase at the back. In the photos, you can see how the stairs deployed from the back. Cooper deployed these stairs and jumped out with the parachutes and the money. The pilots and the air hostesses did not see this happening because they were locked in the cockpit, and back then there was no hole on the cockpit door through which they could see outside. But at 8:13 p.m., pilots noticed that the back part of the plane suddenly tilted upwards, and the pilots had to recalibrate and re-level the plane. After this, the pilots flew the plane to Nevada and landed in the city of Reno. The police were informed and they investigated the plane, but they didn't find any trace of Cooper. The only things the police could find was a tie with a clip on it and some torn parts of the parachutes, which Cooper had used to cover the bag of money. Apart from this, they found some personal items belonging to Cooper, like the cigarettes he was smoking on the plane. Smoking was allowed in airplanes. Back then, investigators investigated everything thoroughly, and they found 66 unidentified fingerprints. Fingerprints belonging to neither the crew members nor to the other passengers. But the suitcase that had the B-0MB, the bag of money, and the parachutes were all missing. Like Cooper, from that day, the FBI started its investigation to find Cooper, but no trace of Cooper was found. This investigation went on for 45 years. It was officially closed in 2016, but the answers to many questions are still unanswered. This is the only hijack in history that no one has been able to solve. One of the greatest mysteries for the FBI. Who was Cooper? What happened to him? Was the money ever recovered by the police? There are too many questions. Let's try to unravel this mystery. Two things are very interesting about this incident. First, during this hijack, no other passenger knew that their plane was hijacked. Neither was anyone led nor was anyone injured in this hijack. Many people claim this was due to Tina Mucklow. They call her the hero of this hijack because she was the one to ensure that Cooper remained calm throughout the flight. His demands were met, and no panic situation could be created, which could cause a ruckus or get someone injured. The co-pilot of the plane, Radachak, later said, "She was so calm and cool and collected. I could not think of anyone that would have been better to have sitting next to someone who would do a criminal act like this." The second interesting thing was that the name D.B. Cooper, as I told you in the beginning, that guy's name was actually Dan Cooper, but today, most people call this the mystery of D.B. Cooper. How did Dan become D.B.? This is because of a mistake by a news reporter. Back then, there was a reporter named James Long who was late for meeting his deadline. So in a hurry, while talking to his police source, he misheard the name. The police said that the hijacker's name was Dan Cooper, but this reporter heard D.B. Cooper and used this name for his news report. This report was picked up by other journalists while talking about this news in their newspapers, and channels started using the name D.B. Cooper. D.B. Cooper, this is how the name of the hijacker changed. In psychology, this phenomenon is known as anchoring. Anchoring is a cognitive bias that states humans rely too heavily on the first piece of information. The first piece of news you hear about, any breaking news, you have the tendency to believe it. In 2013, a joke theory related to this was published, Brandolini's Law, also called the bullshit asymmetry principle. It states that correcting this anchoring effect can be very difficult. The amount of energy needed to correct bullshit is of much higher magnitude than to produce it. In broad terms, spreading lies is relatively easier, but having people believe the truth to correct that lie is much more difficult. But in case of Cooper, it wasn't a huge mistake, only the name was wrong. Anyway, a hijacker shouldn't be expected to use his real name. FBI's initial investigation showed that when Cooper jumped out of the plane, Cooper had strapped the cash around him. The cash weighed around 10 kilos. Cooper used the parachutes to jump, one strapped in front and one behind. The police had an idea of the area in which Cooper jumped. He jumped in the southwest area of Washington state. There were pine forests, lakes, and canyons in the area. Bears lived there. So, in the beginning, the investigators said that there was no chance of Cooper surviving, jumping from a height of 10,000 feet and in pitch darkness. It was completely dark at 8 in the night. Second, the clothes that Cooper was wearing were not at all suitable for jumping in pants and shirt when it was raining outside, with heavy black clouds in the sky at the height of 5,000 feet. It means that Cooper could not see anything while falling. On top of that, The wind speed was important too. It was estimated that when Cooper jumped, he had to be traveling at the speed of 320 kilometers per hour. The United States Parachute Association believed that there was another problem on top of all this. The cold water. In November, the temperature in this American region is very low. If Cooper had fallen into a lake, it would have been almost impossible to escape from there. In such cold water, hypothermia would have set in within a few minutes, and on top of that, the weight strapped on Cooper would have made it more difficult to swim. But despite all these, some such reasons surfaced later, which force us to think that perhaps Cooper survived this jump. The reason for this was that after Cooper's incident, there were many similar incidents. When Cooper's hijacking made news all across the country, more hijackers thought of using the same tactics. At least 5 people did the same copycat hijackings, and all these 5 people survived after jumping off the plane. One of them was Martin McNally, who hijacked a plane on the 24th of June 1972. He used the exact same modus operandi. He demanded a sum of $500,000 when the plane took off. They used a parachute to jump off like Cooper. In McNally's case, the speed of the plane was around 400 to 500 kilometers per hour when he jumped. This was twice the speed of Cooper's dive, but still, McNally survived his jump using only a reserve parachute. Another similar hijack was done in January 1972 by Richard LaPointe. He wore similar clothes in January, jumped and landed safely in the snow. It's irrelevant that these 2 hijackers were later caught by the police. That's how we know their stories. But the FBI thought that if these people could jump in conditions that were worse than when Cooper jumped and they managed to survive, then it was possible that D.B. Cooper survived that night. Especially if you consider that when Tina Mucklow gave the parachutes to Cooper, there were instructions on how to use them. But Cooper told Tina that she didn't need to read the instructions. He knew how to use them. So now, since the FBI started assuming that Cooper could be alive, their next task was to search the place where he had jumped. Actually, the police had started searching those jungles the day after the hijack. The police were looking for a body, a torn piece of the parachutes, or a $20 bill. At the beginning of the video, I told you that the money given to Cooper was special. The special thing was that there were $20 bills, 10,000 notes of $20 to $100,000 in total, and the serial numbers of these notes were noted down by the bank. The FBI spread the list of serial numbers throughout the country, from banks to casinos. Everyone was told to inform the FBI if they got the notes of those serial numbers. But it was becoming more and more difficult for the investigators to find Cooper, because where could the search area be drawn? There were many variables. What was the wind speed while the plane was flying? How dark was it? What was the exact location of the plane when Cooper jumped? After jumping, at what height did Cooper deploy his parachutes? And in which directions could the parachutes have gone? The investigators' best estimate was that it would have landed somewhere near Lake Merwin in Washington State. The FBI ran a practical experiment. If we fly the same aircraft with the same configurations and push out a 91-kilogram sled through the stairs based on where the sled landed, we can get a better idea of the area where Cooper could have landed. Due to this, door-to-door searches were conducted in this area, the local farmhouses. The police used to knock on every door to investigate and to ask people. Petrol boats were running on Lake Merwin and Lake Yale. One company used their submarine. For the search, 200 feet under the Lake Merwin, they continued to look for him. They wanted to find either the money, a piece of the parachute, or a body, but they couldn't find anything. Eventually, the investigators published the serial numbers of the notes in the local newspaper. They ran the news that the first person to find a note from those serial numbers would be awarded $1,000. This offer remained for 3 years, but not a single note could be found. Now let's skip to 1979. 8 years since the hijack, suddenly a pilot contacted the FBI. His name was Tom Boeing, and he worked for Continental Airlines. The night of the hijack, for minutes behind Cooper's aircraft at 4,000 feet above, another aircraft was flying, which was being flown by Tom. Tom recalled the storm that night and said that he had never seen such a storm in his entire career. He said that the FBI's calculations regarding Cooper's drop zone were off by 80. Since he was on a plane that night, he had a better idea of where Cooper landed. He told FBI that they should be searching near the drainage area of the Washougal River. A few months later, Tom's suspicion was proven right. An 8-year-old boy found some $20 notes lying on the bank of the Columbia River. All of these were $20 bills, and some of them were still in bundles held together with rubber bands. Hijacker D.B. Cooper. The first break in the only unsolved airplane hijacking in United States history came on a Columbia River beach. An 8-year-old boy dug up the shreds of $3,000 on Sunday. As soon as the police checked the serial numbers of these notes, it was immediately confirmed that this was the same money from years ago that was given to Cooper. Another search was conducted around this place, but they couldn't find all of the money in total. They could find only $5,800. And Tom's hypothesis of Cooper landing in this area was proved correct. Tom had said that Cooper must have landed somewhere near the Washougal River, and the money found was downstream of the same river. After this, the FBI searched the area in the hope of finding a body or some pieces of the parachute, but they couldn't find anything. FBI agent Richard Tassau believed that Cooper must have drowned in the cold water of the river that night. An interesting fact here was that the 8-year-old boy who found these notes was given some portions of these notes as a reward, and in 2008, when the boy grew up, he sold 15 notes in an online auction, and in return for these $20 notes, he got $37,000. Because Cooper's case was so popular all over the world, people were ready to pay such a high amount for these notes. Another big question that arises is that regardless of what happened to Cooper after jumping from the plane, who was Cooper actually? About where this guy came from and what was his identity? The FBI did not have much to help answer this question. There was a tie and tie clip left behind by Cooper. That tie clip was actually golden, and in that tie clip, they found some specific microscopic particles. In March 2009, a research team started researching these microscopic particles. Using new technology, there was a paleontologist on this team, a scientific illustrator, and a metallurgist. They used electron microscopy to examine these particles. Some portions of the tie clip were of unalloyed titanium with traces of aluminum and titanium antimony alloy. Their findings suggested that Cooper worked in a chemical or metal manufacturing plant or in an aeronautical engineering company. Maybe he worked in Boeing itself, because the unalloyed titanium that was used in the tie clip, back then, it was used in aircraft fabrication facilities. The periodical table of Clue, say scientists, suggests that Cooper had access to a manufacturing company that made airplanes, like the one he jumped from, perhaps a company with a connection to Boeing. In the first year of the investigation, FBI talked to the passengers and flight crew to make a sketch of Cooper's face. What did Cooper look like? The first sketch, created by the 28th of November 1971, looked like this. But air hostess Schaefer and many witnesses said that it was not an accurate representation. It took another year to make a new sketch. This wasn't very accurate either. And on the 2nd of January 1973, the FBI made their third and final sketch of Cooper. After seeing this new sketch, an air hostess said that this photo was accurate. Looking at this drawing, it can be easily said that Cooper looked like this. Dan Cooper's real face and his possible profession was revealed to the world. Many people started making new theories about his identity, about who Cooper was. Larry Carr, who had led the investigative team from 2006 to 2009, believed that Cooper was an aircraft cargo loader in the Air Force, because cargo loaders were given basic jump training, how to wear parachutes, how to deploy parachutes, and even on the working of the plane, how to deploy the stairs in the plane. They know all this. Based on these descriptions, the FBI released a list of more than 800 suspects, 800 people. Any of them could be D.B. Cooper, but 20 of them were seriously considered. 2 to 3 of them have interesting stories. One of them was Richard McCoy, an Army veteran of the Vietnam War. 5 months after the Cooper's hijack, he hijacked a plane in a manner eerily similar to Cooper's. A Boeing 727 plane. He demanded for parachutes and $500,000. The young man wanted $500, zero, and requested for parachutes. After taking the money, he deployed the rear stairs and jumped. But the only difference was that just 2 days after the hijack, the FBI found him and arrested him. He was sentenced to 45 years in jail, and the FBI thought that he was Cooper and that this was his second attempt at hijacking. He was arrested here in his home in Provo, Utah, early this morning. When the FBI man came, he did not resist. In 1991, a book was published, D.B. Cooper, The Real McCoy, written by former FBI agent Russell Callum. This book states that when McCoy's family was shown the tie and tie clip belonging to Cooper, they believed that those were McCoy's. But when McCoy was asked if he was D.B. Cooper, he refused to admit or deny it. After spending 2 years in jail, McCoy attempted a jailbreak, which led to a shootout in which he was killed. After hearing all this, you may feel that the mystery is solved, but there are more twists in our story today. The FBI does not officially consider McCoy as D.B. Cooper. There are the major reasons behind this. First, based on the sketch they made, the description of D.B. Cooper does not match McCoy. Second, the FBI later found evidence of McCoy's whereabouts during the night of Cooper's hijacking. He was in Las Vegas. The next day, he was at his home with his family. Since there is evidence of this, it is clear that McCoy cannot be D.B. Cooper. The second suspect was a Vietnam War veteran named Robert Rackstraw. He was arrested multiple times for fraud, aircraft theft, and possession of explosives, but he was always found not guilty after the arrest. TV producer Thomas Colbert wrote a book in 2016, The Last Master Outlaw, to prove that Rackstraw was D.B. Cooper. He made a documentary on History Channel, D.B. Cooper, Case Closed, where he said the same thing. Colbert worked with a team of 40 people, including many former FBI agents. All of them believed that Rackstraw was the real D.B. Cooper. What is the evidence for this? When FBI began the investigation in the 1970s, Rackstraw was high on the list of initial suspects. In those days, Rackstraw used to give joke comments to the media on the possibility that he was the hijacker. However, many years later, he denied these claims. His face matched the sketches, but the FBI let him go after 1979 and removed him from the suspect list because they couldn't get substantial evidence. TV producer Colbert believed that the FBI should have kept investigating this guy. With more FBI investigation, they could have uncovered the evidence. While on the 11th of July 2016, Colbert launched his new book on D.B. Cooper. The next day, on the 12th of July 2016, the FBI closed the case. In 2016, Rackstraw was 73 years old, and because of the allegations against him in this book, he lost his job. Later in 2019, he passed away due to natural causes. So, friends, we are back at the same point. Even today, this mystery of D.B. Cooper is an unsolved mystery. No one knows who was D.B. Cooper. Where did he come from and where did he go? Now that you know about this mystery, what do you think? That night when D.B. Cooper jumped off the plane, could Cooper survive that jump or not? Write in the comments below. It is quite surprising that after Cooper's hijacking, there were many similar hijackings, but in all those hijackings, the hijackers who used parachutes to jump off the plane, first of all, he always survived, and second, he was always caught by the police or FBI. But what about Cooper? If you like this video, I'd have made more videos on such mysteries. I created a playlist of mystery videos. Click here to watch that playlist. Or you can watch Mona Lisa's mystery by clicking here. Thank you very much.